Good morning and welcome to Filmmarket Hub Talks. My name is Rosalind, I'm the UK manager, and I'm delighted to welcome with us today Mark Brennan from United Agents, who is one of the jury members of our 2021 Feature Film Writing Contest. Welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Ross. Nice to be here.
Lovely to have you. So we've just got a few questions for you as one of our jury members. What makes a script stand out to you?
I would say the strength of the story or the angle at which it's told. I've said this before to a lot of people, and it's kind of one of my mantras that there's very little out there at the moment that's wholly original, that hasn't been done in some way, shape, or form. And it really is about finding a new perspective on old material. And when I see that in writing, that kind of gets me excited. It's also the strength for me, and this is kind of a personal love for writing, it is dialogue. I'm a massive theatre lover, and I think the strength of theatre comes from strong characterization. And I equate strong characters to strong dialogue in scripts. So when I can actually see the people talk these lines, when they materialize in my head in a very easy way, I get the sense that this writer knows these people as well and knows how to paint them. And so it helps paint a picture for me of the story while I'm reading it, because reading scripts it's not as visual as the finished product. You have to use a lot of imagination. So good writing will actually help you on the imagination road, and it won't let you do all the legwork.
And how can a writer develop that unique writer's voice that you're talking about?
Well, they always say practice makes perfect. It is, I would say, just going at it. I would say never be afraid of the blank page. It's easier said than done. I've been there myself as a former copywriter. It's terrifying, and sometimes you freeze. But the more you get used to kind of sitting down and tackling something that's not there and putting something down, no matter how bad it may seem or how critical you might be of it, I think you should always be proud if you get something down on paper, because not a lot of people do. I think it's also a case of some people are just naturally born to tell stories, and it's all about finding the medium with which they tell the story the best. Some people can write scripts and they can tell those stories through script writing, and that's just their forte. Other people communicate it better through novelization. Other people communicate it better through performance. What I say to writers is, if I can identify something in your writing that tells me you're a storyteller, but perhaps you maybe aren't suited to this medium, then I would not give up on the craft of storytelling. I would just go and look for a medium that perhaps suits you better, because you clearly have a talent for it. But as I say, keep write as much as you can, and in the format that makes you most comfortable and really energizes you.
Scripts can be continually redrafted, re-edited. As an agent, when do you think it's time to hand it over or to ask for feedback or submit it to a contest?
I would say when someone reads it and they have an emotive reaction to it. So I know a script is ready if I feel myself jump, if I find myself laughing out loud, if I find myself very, I suppose emotionally punched, depending on the genre that I'm reading. If I have a reaction of that nature, then I feel others will have that reaction, and it's that reaction that will entice somebody, I think, to want to hear more about this story, or to want to hear where it came from, would want to talk about how it might look on the screen. And so as agents, a lot of us will work with writers to make sure that their work has that pop. It's not necessarily our job to make sure that it is perfection personified. We're gatekeepers, and we're shepherds. Our job is to identify something that has the potential to be great, and then give it to the people who have the skills to make it great.
What, in your opinion, and obviously this changes, what in your opinion gets a script optioned by a production company?
I think it's the marketability of a script. It's very much a case of looking at something and go, what has been done like this before and when was it done? There are plenty of amazingly written scripts out there, and they don't get the opportunity to be optioned and developed further because the timing is wrong. It's literally, there's been a saturation of these kind of stories on the market for a while. Perhaps the subject is a bit slightly more delicate at the current time. I mean, I know COVID scripts and pandemic scripts are very much things that lots of people are trying to avoid because it's still too soon, and we're still living through that experience, and it can be a bit raw. And I think that timing is key, and also what the stories that want to be told for the world that we're in at the moment. I think really being in touch with the zeitgeist of what you want to say in a script is really important too. So I know I talk about saturation and there being too much of one thing. That is absolutely the case, but also always look at the world around you and think, what stories aren't being told, and how could I tell them in a way that would make people would make it gripping. Climate change is a big one at the moment, where I know that there's a rush to try and get material that is both dramatic, compelling, but also delivers a message that will educate us. But sometimes it can be labored to develop something that can come across as quite worthy, or come across as too educational, or too, I suppose, demeaning of the audience in terms of, you are not doing this right, or you are not doing this right. We don't want to I suppose, speak down to an audience. You want to uplift an audience. And that's also a challenge as well with the writing. I always tell my writers, when you're writing, write like you're, again, I use a pub analogy because I'm an Irish man. That is where I love hearing stories. It's where I've told stories many a times, most of them untrue, but you get a laugh, and that's the main thing. But you want people to be engaged. You don't want them to think that you're lecturing them, or that you're preaching from a pulpit. And I think it's important to really kind of embrace your audience. And I kind of use, for films in particular, when you look at the film festival analogies, when my writers or my clients or any kind of creative is saying, oh, are you going to see, what films are you going to see? And isn't it great that you have like an industry pass where you can go to see the films? And I have to say to them, I love going to see the films with the general public, because it is those people who actually come out and they have such a love for the cinema that they're going out of just passion for it. And you can see that passion when you sit, or when you're seeing them watch the films. Industry and press screenings, they're a great advantage for us in terms of our schedule and how busy our timetables are. But sitting amongst industry colleagues who have been trained or are in the trenches to analyze work in a particular way sometimes takes the joy out of it. And getting sucked into that cycle, it's not good for one's job when your job is fueled by passion.
Totally. It's a totally different experience actually as well. And I suppose it's when you go to local cinemas that you actually you really see the reaction of the public, whereas in a press screening you're only getting industry reactions, which, it's a different thing. So
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's a way of seeing whether the story really is emotive and touching, as you were saying. So engaging with the world.
I mean,
the industry.
It's always lovely to get accolades and to get praise from your peers in the industry, but it's never a good idea to get washed up completely by that, because they are only part of the audience that you want to appeal to. I think it's very interesting when you see people review films, in particular when reviewers go to film festivals and they go to the screenings where it is industry just solely there, and the way they review the film is very different to when that reviewer sits in an audience of just the general public. And it's a different atmosphere. They get carried away more by the excitement of it sometimes, and that reinterprets what they're watching on screen. Whereas I've seen reviewers go into screenings where it's just a bunch of us people who are quite cynical in our nature sometimes, and sometimes that cynicism bleeds into the review itself. And so as I say, there's so many ways to look at the content, and so many audience perspectives that it's impossible to try and to get into the heads of everybody. You will do yourself an absolute migraine hell if you did. But to go out and absorb as much as you can without overloading yourself, I think will inform you as a writer and kind of make you think about the bigger picture of what your story can do and who it can talk to.
What would you recommend to screenwriters trying to break into the industry?
I would say, going back to my other point, I keep writing. I think you need to, I suppose, test yourself first and see how dedicated you are to the craft, because a lot of people, when they come looking for agents in particular, they think once they have an agent, that's them sorted and their career is set. And that is unfortunately far from the case, because the process of being creative it's very long, it's very grueling, and it can take a lot out of you. And if you don't have the passion for it, you will lose confidence, you will lose energy, and you'll feel knocked back, because that's what our industry is. It is knockback after knockback until you get that one shot that can make a dramatic difference for your career and your life. So I would say test your love for the craft first. See whether it is really something that you want to pursue and you want to pursue in the long term. And then sit down and go, okay, I want to do this. This is going to be a slog, and I've acknowledged this. What can I do to, I suppose, how can I make this easier to do? And most people just say, well, I just wake up in the morning and I need to write. I need to do this. This is what keeps me going. And then basically, I hate to say it, but quoting Whoopi Goldberg from Sister Act 2, when she was a great scene with Lauryn Hill, when she was basically advising her, she was like, if you wake up in the morning and all you can think about is singing, then you're supposed to be a singer, girl. And it's kind of the same with writing. It's the same with directing. If all you can think about is writing or directing and creating, you're supposed to do that in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. So try it out first. If script writing for feature film or feature TV or theatre is really your passion and what you want to do, and you've written a body of work and you're kind of like, okay, I've stayed in this vacuum a little bit too long, get the opinion of your peers and your friends around you. Again, looking at the audience, these are the people that are going to watch your film eventually, or they're going to read your story. See what the general kind of, I suppose, reaction from that is. If you get a sense that you feel good about this and you're not too, I suppose, anxiety induced, which can happen from a process like that, think about, okay, the platforms that profile younger writers, such as this competition, where it is an open application policy. BBC Writers' Rooms do great schemes, excuse my Friday morning English. The BAFTA Roadcliffe scheme, they do it's all open door policy. You don't need an agent, you don't need any experience. They just want to see good writing. And it's the same with For Screenwriters, Philip Shelley's great initiative. And it's a case with a lot of the younger theatre companies that open their doors to young writers, like Theatre 503. I know that the theatre company had a great initiative, I think, over lockdown for younger writers wanting to get into the digital space. It's kind of doing your own on the ground research. And what I like to see when I speak to writers is that if they approach me, they've already kind of understood how the industry works, or they've actually taken the time to learn themselves about how writing is showcased, how people kind of get on people's radars, and they don't automatically expect you to say, all right, I've written this one thing or these two things and I've spoken to nobody, make something happen. Yeah. And that's kind of my response is, unfortunately, I'm not Harry Potter, so I can't wield magic as much as I would love to. It is as much about you showing that you're willing to work for this as it is about me being able to help with that work and work with you alongside, because we both slog, we both get frustrated, we both hate this sometimes, and we both want to pack it in, but we do it because inherently it's in us to do it, and to do anything else wouldn't just feel right.
Mm-hmm. How will you assess the scripts in this contest? What are you looking for? What do you hope to find in the scripts that you read, and what will stand out to you personally?
I think I love a good female bonkers character. I grew up in a house full of sisters. I have a fantastic mother, and their personalities influenced me a lot as a child. And I love seeing them represented on a page. I love seeing these terrific, bonkers women who are just fantastic, whatever they do. Just pushing through life, just going through the motions that we all do, but doing it with such grace and such determination and such flair that I'm sorry to my own gender, that men just can't do, I think, on the page sometimes. I think you can get great male protagonists, and I do love reading them, but I just love how sassy you can get with a female lead, and particularly when I look at kind of the range of what women are doing at the moment, the roles that are being written at the moment for women. Like, I mean, I'm loving, like, Gentleman Jack, like, is one of my kind of top TV shows the last few years, because I loved that kind of Downton Abbey meets Fleabag-esque style of filmmaking. But I also think Saran Jones, just as an actress, is really kind of bringing fantastic roles for women alive. But also, and these roles, Sally Wainwright spearheaded that show and really kind of made it. But also, I know that her team around it were so ingrained in the material and so passionate about it, and that just came through the show so much. It was a delight to watch, and I want to read a script where I can see people getting excited by these characters, by this world. I can see script editors, production designers, producers, costume designers really read it and go, oh my God, the fun we could have with this. And to think that to build something around this would be an exciting enterprise.